very good afternoon to you and welcome to another exciting edition of your favorite business development program on radio, Masterclass. Masterclass is powered by Joy Business and brought to us by Goyle. Goyle, good energy, Goyle, Yenara, Yedia. Masterclass comes your way every Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. and runs all the way through to 2:15 p.m. here on your superstation Joy 99.7. My name as always is Yaw Anim Barnafo and I'm happy to be your host for today's edition of Masterclass. Today's show will be the third show since we started in this year 2023. Week before last, we started the conversation on getting your finances right for the year ahead. Naturally, when you've made all your New Year's resolutions and you're starting the year, one of the key things you want to look at is your finances to plan them properly. In that conversation, we had with us from Deloitte Financial Advisory, Isaac Okwe-Alote, who is a senior manager there, and he talked to us about a number of things. In summary, what I gathered from that conversation, essentially, if you missed it, was knowing your net worth, looking at your income and expense savings, also looking at the investments and preparing for disruptions. Clearly, we are in a period of disruption right now, and we had extensive conversation on what some of the things to do are. We're talking about the groups of people who even didn't have money to lose and those who have also lost money. Whatever your situation is, there's time to start over again. Last week, we continued in that conversation, and we ended the conversation on getting your finances right for the year ahead. Today, we're moving to a new topical area, 1st of February, new month, new topic, new conversation. We always bring you conversations here on Masterclass that will help your businesses to grow all round. Topics from people here in Ghana who you'd otherwise had to pay for and spend a lot of money, but we bring all that to you pro bono. Today's conversation will center on a topic that permeates all aspects of discussions across meeting rooms, across boardrooms. It affects our personal lives, it affects the people around us. It affects all sorts of conversations, and that's the topic and conversation of mental health. Mental health. It's such a broad conversation, and we're going to try and sort of restrict our conversation to mental health at the workplace. And I know that this is a conversation that interests many people. Preparing for this show earlier on in the week, I spoke to a couple of people who listened to Masterclass, and they said to me, "Yeah, this topic is so critical, so when you talk about it, we want to listen and be able to pick some pointers from it." So if you know someone who's missing out on Masterclass right now, pick up a phone, give them a call, send them a text, ask them to tune in, because Masterclass is on air right now. To deliver this conversation for us, we have another renowned and accomplished Ghanaian who is the founder of Crossbridge Consult and also an author. She's also a founding member of the Africa Institute of Thinking and Innovation. Backstage, before we started, she said to me, "Now, nobody teaches us how to think. We learn how to do everything, but we don't learn how to think." Today, we'll talk about that and many more. She's also a board member and a member of the Organizational Center Ghana and also a faculty member. She's also a member of the following institutions: West Africa Network of Peace Building, the New Crystal Health Services, Africa Institute of Executive Thinking and Innovation, and many more. She has an MPhil in organizational psychology from the University of Ghana. She's a certified trainer, ILO certified. Her CV goes on and on. She's written books like Don't Lie to Me, Pause, Change is Here, Next Level Thinking, Entrepreneurship. And she's done some work in organizational development in countries like Ghana, Mexico, Ireland, Hungary, and also for the AU Commission. She's also done some work in Nigeria and South Africa. She's helped train over 1,000 entrepreneurs in different African countries on entrepreneurial behavior. My guest for this afternoon is Akosua Agyeman Mark-Okai. Akosua, you have the kind of CV that when I grow up, I want to be like you. You're welcome to Masterclass.
Thank you very much, yes. And good afternoon to the audience. So I guess we can just go straight into it.
Just before you do, though, just to give our listeners, I mean, a lot of my listeners like to write for flow of thought. So just to give you an idea of what we'll be talking about in the next couple of weeks. Today, we're going to be looking at the introduction, if you like, to the conversation on mental health at the workplace. So we're going to be looking at the whats and the whys and the initial conversations and definitions. Then, God willing, next week, we'll be looking at the causes, warning signs, and symptoms. And then week 3, we'll be looking at the applications, solutions, and quick tips. And then in week 4, we'll be looking at increasing work performance and mental illness. But before we start, we're streaming live on Facebook. For those of us who want to watch live on Facebook, we're streaming live. And we've also got some slides. Akosua obliged us a couple of slides, so we'll be sharing those as well alongside on Facebook if you want to follow us for Flow of Thought. At some point in this show, we'll get interactive, and then you can also be a part of the conversation, either through WhatsApp. You send us a WhatsApp, or you pick up the phone and give us a call. But Akosua, just to sort of tease out the conversation a bit, backstage, we're talking about some renowned people in society who had made some comments. And maybe I'll just quickly share one or two of them. There's Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon is a media executive, political strategist. And he says, I've got a cure for mental health issues. And the cure is that spank your children more. This is Steve Bannon. I've also got one from Kate Middleton. Kate Middleton, Princess of Wales. She says, a child's mental health is just as important as their physical health and deserves the same quality of support. That's Kate Middleton. I also picked some information up from the World Health Organization on Ghana. This was published on the 10th of October 2022. And it says, Ghana's mental health service system faces inadequate qualified mental health professionals. There are only 39 psychiatrists for the entire population, of whom an estimated 2.3 million people have mental health conditions. When I was talking to Akosua backstage, I was warned that we sometimes throw the terms around psychiatry, psychology, mental illness, mental wellness, mental health. They are not all the same thing, and they are not synonyms for each other. So I'm sure that at some point Akosua will help us to distinguish between them. Akosua, some of these comments are from people across industry who have sort of, whether they're experienced or otherwise, they've had some kind of encounter with a conversation on mental health at the workplace and otherwise, and they've made their comments. But today, and for the next couple of weeks, you're the expert in the studio, so you're going to be sort of leading us into that conversation, introducing it to us and helping us understand. So maybe we can start from the first point we shared. Let's go straight into that conversation. What is it about? Why is it so important? How does it affect the work that we do in the workplaces and the relationships that we hold? All of that. Just go through your slides, if you will.
Okay, so before I actually start using the slides, what I need to say is that every organization, for sustainability, there are two things that organization has to have, and that is performance and the health of the organization. Performance is concerned with the things that are going on now, our goals that we set, and a strategic plan and so on. But the other side of the story is that for how long will we be around? And that is the health of the organization. I like Peter Drucker when he talks about profit not being a difference between how much you have spent and how much you have earned, but is this money enough to keep me in business this time next year? And so performance and health become very important for the now and for the future. But for us to be able to do that, we need to have quality resources. And like we all say, and which I was telling you that I don't agree when people say that human resource is your greatest resource.
Yes.
It is the quality of human resource that keeps you going. So therefore, it's only logical that if you are wanting to have quality human resource, then you ought to be concerned about the individuals that come to work for you. But we are so performance oriented that we forget about the well-being of the person who is supposed to perform. And, some organizations do well by providing physical space for, exercises and stuff like that. But nobody engages people on the mental state, which is the control center of the person who comes to work. If you look at our lives, we spend most of the day with work-related activities. You wake up at 4 or 5 just to be able to get to work on time. And even when you close, it takes you a couple of hours to also get back home. Exactly. So you're doing like 4 a.m. to 8 p.m. So why shouldn't you get that space enjoyable, just by understanding? And so the purpose for me this afternoon is, I was telling you that it's not to do an academic review. Even though all the things that we say are backed by research, I'm not going to go into quotations and numbers and so on. I want everybody who works to have an understanding and how they can use this understanding to help themselves and other people so they become better performers at work. And so there's that awareness of mental health. I want you to understand the knowledge around mental health. What is it? Why? What are the causes? What can I do? All right. And then the preventive measures that I can take and how I can help other people and also provide support networks at the workplace so that people know where to go to. But before then, again, I want us to look at some clarity or get some clarity on the words. We banter psychiatry and mental health and illness and all those things around. So let's just get some clarity. Now, mental health is the state of wellness or well-being. Those two words, yes, we can interchange, in which the individual realizes their own abilities to be able to cope with stress of life, so that in all this you are working productively and you are also contributing to the community. So that's the umbrella, definition of mental health. Note, it hasn't said anything about illness or disorders. All right.
One of the key words that jumps out at me from this explanation is thresholds.
Yes.
So everyone has got thresholds.
Exactly.
I'll leave it at that. And when we get to the Q&A, I'll ask that question. But I just thought I'd make that point.
So we'll talk about that. So that's mental health. Now, if you look at mental wellness, it is the overall quality of your life with positivity, despite the occasional disappointments and frustrations that set in. So your psychological, state, your emotional state, your mental state, your spiritual states are all together or overall in terms of quality of life that you live. So that's the wellness part. Now, if you look at mental illness is where you get to a stage where you need a diagnosis by medical professionals, clinical psychologists, and all that. That is a disorder. So you have anxiety disorders, different types of anxiety disorders, depression, and so on. We are not going to talk about that. We are talking about mental wellness. Of course, if you have low mental wellness over a prolonged, stretch of time, it will lead you into mental illness. Okay, so a lot of the stigma and discrimination is because people don't understand the differences in these terms. And
let me ask this question though, just for clarity of thought. I'm sure someone else is thinking the same thing. We're not going to be dwelling too much on mental illness, but would you say that something falls in that category when it becomes repetitive and frequent or continuous?
Yes, in fact, we'll talk a bit about that in the following weeks. But it can, my professor once said that there's a thin line between sanity and insanity. We all talk to ourselves, don't we? Occasionally. But when it becomes...
I'm smiling because
when it goes beyond a certain stage, then people start looking at you. Or even when you have a certain behavior at work and it is disruptive, it is repetitive, people begin to say, oh, don't mind her, she's mental.
But really, I'm laughing because this one I'm guilty. Is it bad to talk to yourself?
No. It's excellent. And I'll let you know why. Even as I talk to you now, you are talking to yourself. The other voice is talking to you about, is this going to be a good show? Is this and so on. 6 times faster than I'm talking to you.
Right.
So if I don't hold your attention, you will fall back to the voices that talk to you. And these voices can be negative or positive. But we make the choices. And so we'll look at that into a little bit more detail as we go along.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah. And then something I also want us to see that stress is not a condition. We determine that something is a stressor. So something that is stressful to you will not be stressful to me. It is my perception, my interpretation that makes it a stress. But once it becomes a stress, then we have to find ways of dealing with it and managing it so that it does not, and we will talk about that next week, what it does to you in your body. Chemicals that are released, organs that are, put in a certain state, and you don't realize it and you think, oh, I'm fine. But it's going on. And once that repetition and consistency occurs, then of course you're going to get into disorders. And just two other words. The brain. Since we are talking mental, it's about the brain.
Yes.
Now, the brain is the physical gray matter in your head. The physical gray matter.
The one that we see on TV.
The one you see on TV. And when we crack your head, we can see. But your mind is the processes that go on within the brain when you are thinking.
Which are intangible.
Yes, you can't see that, even though it goes along certain networks that are in your brain, so that you're able to make decisions, it gives you information, and so on and so forth. So those are the processes. Right. So now I hope that we have clarity on that, and we are not going to mix these things up.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
Yes. So what we would say total wellness or total well-being, since that's what we're going to talk about and concentrate on in the following, I will redefine it again, that it is the ability, we are looking at the ability to cope with the challenges of life and be productive in all areas of our life. So we are looking at the physical, we are looking at the social, how you interact with people around you, your relationships, and we're talking about the mental and emotional. Those are, two sides of a coin, but still we are going to just concentrate on the mental. If you want to talk about mental and emotion, you have to come to one of our workshops. And then, of course, all this is encased in the spiritual. All right?
There's a key word you mentioned there, the ability to cope.
Yes.
Because oftentimes I've had people come to me and say, oh, I'm overwhelmed with this. I can't do this anymore. It's too much. I can't stand it. That brings to me the key word of threshold I mentioned earlier, and the ability to cope. And so the focus is on your ability to cope.
Yes.
And that will, if we're backtracking a bit, it goes back to your mind, doesn't it?
Yes.
And so, someone said to me, says, we see the world the way we are and not the way the world is.
Exactly.
And so sometimes if somebody said a harsh word to you, how you processed it is what will determine whether it stresses you or it doesn't.
Yes. In fact, two people can say the same thing to you, but depending on how you perceive the other person. So one person says, your hair is too long. Now, because you perceive that person already in a negative manner, that this person is always saying negative things about him. Exactly. You can't be neutral about it. So you take that neutral comment and interpret it as a negative. Another person who is your friend, who is always commenting or saying nice things to you, comes and says your hair is long. And you say, oh, thank you. You have made a choice. You have determined
to interpret it.
Exactly. So that is why I say that we see through our eyes. And I'll even explain that further with another example. But we see with our minds.
We see through our eyes. But we see with our minds.
Yes.
Okay.
It's very important.
That's deep and profound.
In mental wellness. Because I determine what my reality is.
My truth, your truth.
Exactly.
My reality. I hear that a lot lately. It's your reality, it's not my reality.
Exactly.
You know?
It's because of the interpretations. And that is why you have to get your mind right. And that's why it's very exciting when Philippians 4:8 talks about think of what is, dwell on it. What is true, what is honest.
Whatever things are pure, whatever things are right, whatever things are
just.
Good.
So why are you choosing...
Think on these things.
Exactly. Think on these things. Why are you choosing to think whatever you're thinking?
When you're going for a visa, you say, hey, they won't give it to me.
Exactly. So why are you
or
bothering?
maybe they won't give it to me. And the mind is such a powerful thing.
It's so powerful. And I mean, later on, maybe we'll talk about, not on this one, but where we have a full program on your mind and how it affects performance and how your mind works. It's amazing. If I gave you a blank sheet of paper and I ask you, what do you see? 90% of people will tell you it's a blank paper. But a few people will say that it's a blank paper, but I see a ship going along the horizon. The person is engaging in another level of thinking. And so there are different levels of thinking. And you know, like I was telling you, somebody's moved from management to an executive position, and we just assume he's fine. Nobody is bothering to teach him what executive thinking entails compared to managers' thinking. And so he carries that same thing to the top.
To the top.
Just because he's technically competent.
Yes.
And then the guy also, you know, if you know about Peter's principle, where you are promoted, and then you find that you're short of what the expectations. That yes, you're technically good, but you don't have your social. Yes, you don't have the social competencies and interpersonal relationships that makes your technical expertise excellent.
So for me, what I'll say here to my listeners who are business owners and entrepreneurs is that when you assume the position of ownership, authority, chief operating officer, whatever in your business, because you're going to be working with people, do not only dwell on your technical competence. I've always said that you can't know everything yourself, so get help. Get help. There are people who are ready to help. Akosua is going to tell us about her foundation, and they do this kind of thing for people. You can learn that as well. Let's not play it down, because here we are talking about the mind being a powerful thing and managing people and understanding them. That probably becomes the most difficult thing that you have to do in all of your business, apart from the technical thing that you need to do. So that's critical.
Sorry. Now, we're talking about the ability to cope with the challenges, being total wellness.
Yes.
And we talked about the physical, the social, the spiritual, the mental. Yeah. But we're going to just concentrate on the mental. Okay, so number one, you have to be aware of and accepting rather than denying what you're experiencing. So
being in denial.
It means that you're not even willing to get help. So first, if you notice that there's something that is not quite right about you these days, sit down and accept it. So
you get angry quickly.
Why am I getting angry so quickly these days? There's something that is triggering it, and you need to be able to be aware and accept it. And then it also means that you have to have an optimistic approach to life. And enjoy life despite its occasional disappointments and frustrations. Know that you will bounce back. You won't stay down forever.
This too shall pass.
Exactly. This too is just passing through.
Yeah.
And we will look at one of the sessions that talks about problems. The problems, why worry? Everybody, I won't jump the gun, so we'll get there and we'll go through it together. And then, of course, it is crucial to have total wellness because then you can fulfill your potential. Otherwise, you keep drawing back. Your self-esteem is low. You think that I can't reach this and so on and so forth. So let's remember that total wellness is about your ability to cope in spite of the circumstances. Yeah. Now, mental wellness, as I said, is not, I repeat, is not the opposite of mental illness. When we are talking about mental wellness, we are not talking about psychiatrists and, asylums and so on and so forth. No. Everybody must have mental wellness. But it is not everyone who will experience mental illness. Remember, the illness comes about because of a prolonged state that is ignored and it progresses into disorders and depression, and then you need medication and medical help.
Right.
So that now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's look at why mental wellness is important to the workplace. Because remember, I did say that um, every organization has two things for sustainability: performance and health. And that the people who work there must therefore have mental wellness,
Yes.
so that they can take proper decisions, they can be optimistic, they can have innovation, they can be innovative, and so on and so
And they
forth.
can even be productive.
Exactly, because you can't be productive because once there's a low mental wellness, people don't come to work early, they are absent,
Or they even come to work, but they're not.
they're not working.
They're not working.
And sometimes they have, if they don't have that mental wellness, they have a problem with somebody in a meeting and carries it on. So every time they see that person, their heart jumps. Or if the person is their boss, they're trying to avoid that person, and so on and so forth. But like I said, we'll get more into detail about the causes. All right, so the worker, why is it important? As I had said earlier, once you recognize something is not right about your mental state, you have to do something. People don't do anything about it or take any steps because they are unaware of the consequences that happen because they ignore it for long periods. It's important also that when people are unaware, there are some people, at least the first group, they recognize there's something. There's another group who don't even know what is happening.
They're not even aware.
No, even though they're experiencing unusual self changes. Like I said, these days I'm angry, but it's because of so and so. All right? And they take themselves out of the problem and do a third party projection.
It's somebody's fault.
It's somebody's fault, not mine. Okay? So then they don't bother to look at themselves and ask for
I know a few people who I couldn't help just joking. I'm being naughty here. I know a few people who get very agitated when they don't have money in their pockets.
Exactly.
I'm one of those people.
Exactly.
But
why wouldn't you
so
be?
do I have a problem?
Now, you need to be able, once you've recognized that, to see what can I do about this, because you think you're just getting agitated, but as soon as you get agitated, you're releasing all sorts of things into your body.
Negative toxins.
Into your body, yes.
When that happens, the answers are short, monosyllables.
Yes,
No. Yes.
And you are thinking less
Yeah.
effectively. In fact, because again, certain chemicals have been released, and so your thinking part of the brain becomes lowered. And you are making decisions. Can you imagine when you're angry, making decisions? You're making bad decisions, and so on and so forth.
That's why they say when you're upset, do not send a text message. Do not send an email. Do not do anything. Make decisions when
Exactly.
you're,
And so those are some of the quick tips that we'll learn, later on in the month about things like how do I breathe and what message does it send to be able to carry on. And then sometimes we hear voices. Some people hear voices and they say things. I hear a lot of people saying things to me. That's also the reason why we need to pay attention to mental wellness, because the person hearing a lot of voices will be doing things that are probably detrimental to the organization. And then also, there are people who actually acknowledge that there is something wrong with me, but they don't know where to go to. And they don't know who to talk to because the workplace has not provided support for such things. And that is why we have set up this Center for Workplace Emotional and Mental Wellness. So it's a lovely place in the Kwapem Hills. You drive and it's like you're driving into a hotel. So there's no stigma or anything. And you just make an appointment and just come for help. And most organizations have partnered with us because the person feels safer, more confident, and it's not like I'm going to this office that is designated in the workplace and everybody knows that there's something going on with me.
something wrong with me.
Yes. Because people will like to keep up appearances. They have packaged themselves in a certain way, and they like people to think of them in that way because they feel that their self-esteem is threatened, their perceptions are challenged, and their reputation is being downgraded. And so they tend to fight back. But lastly, on the internal part, then all this is taking on place within the person is the dual role of women, career women, where they even have to work twice as hard to prove their capabilities. And they are also playing the role of being family caregivers. And that's a lot of burden that they have to carry, and which we must recognize at the workplace. But in the environment of the workplace, change is happening, and it's happening really fast. We have volatile situations, we have disruptive situations, we are very uncertain as to what is happening. In fact, I was just reading last week that whereas change used to happen every 100 to 200 years, change is now happening at a rate of 6 months. So in 6 months, you have to review what you know. Otherwise, you become irrelevant.
Obsolete.
Yeah. Exactly. And so can you imagine that you have to go through this quick way of change and not knowing how to cope, whether it's technology, markets, or financing, or whatever. And then workplace disorders, the research has shown us that it is increasing, and women have twice as much workplace-related disorders. And then, like I said earlier, performance is what matters, not the well-being of the person, And the new normal demands new behavior, new performance, new relationships, to ensure that we are effective and efficient. And we haven't learned those things yet, or we haven't had the opportunity. And then, of course, once you have workers who have a low mental wellness, then it is affecting productivity, like you said, and anxiety increases, burnout increases, people become depressed, and then there's substance abuse in trying to cope, with all this. So all this increases the cost that the organization incurs, because as performance decreases and turnover increases and people have low morale and complaints are increased by your customers and your markets, and there's absenteeism, more accidents because people are not paying attention, they are not focused, and they are beginning to have some kind of ill health. And that's the attitude that is being used at the workplace. So it becomes even much more expensive. It's counterproductive.
I'm sure we have a lot more thoughts there. If you just tuned in, this is Masterclass here on your superstation Joy 99.7. We're having a conversation here on mental health in the workplace with Akosua Agyeman Mark-Okai. We're going to take a quick message from our sponsors. When we come back, we get interactive. Welcome back. If you've just tuned in, this is Masterclass. We're interactive right now. Numbers to call 0302-216-541. That's 0302-216-541. Pick up that phone and give us a call. Or send us your message on 055-11-11-997. That's 055-11-11-997. Pick up that phone and give us a call on 0302-216-541. We're here in the studio with Akosua Agyeman Mark-Okai, CEO of Crossbridge Consult, and we're talking about the all-important topic of mental health in the workplace. If you have a motor vehicle of any kind, your oil marketing company of choice, GOIL, keeps making life ever so convenient. GOIL now accepts Momo for all fuel purchases. Just remember to Momo it at GOIL. GOIL, good energy. GOIL, Yenara, Yedia. Phone lines are now open. Please pick up that phone and give us a call, 0302-216-541. We have just about one or two more slides. If we could just quickly go through those while we wait for the phone lines to ring.
Great.
Right.
Now, because we said that mental wellness starts with quality thinking, it also means that we need to have a certain mindset. Our minds are set in a particular way. And some of the ways that you set your mind is what you believe about yourself, and also the values that you have. So if you believe yourself to be competent, you believe yourself that I can do things, you believe yourself that every challenge that comes is, um, an opportunity for me, then you're on the right track. What kind of values do you have so that it doesn't conflict with events that happen in your life? How do you perceive the world? Do you look at the world? I like to say, what kind of glasses do you wear to see the world? Do you see the world as a dark place with everybody out to get you? It's very interesting how we think everybody's out to get us, when really research shows that about 10% of people are actively against you. Another 10% are actively for you. So you have 80% to influence, to go one way or the other. So once you have that, whoever you think is against you, work with that person and see how you can draw that person into your network. You know. And then how do you interpret things? Because of the way you view the world, your interpretation of one particular thing, like I gave you with the example, depends on what you have been viewing that person as. And so at the workplace, if you think of your colleagues, your boss, and so on, as people who are always out to get you, and you are a victim, you will behave that way.
So your biases, your prejudices, your orientation, your past, all forms part of your interpretation.
Exactly. So that we can go into details into that later on.
I've got a caller on the line. Let's take that call quickly. Good afternoon. You're welcome to Masterclass. Your name and where you're calling from.
Good afternoon. My name is Keku. And so there's this friend of mine that she operates a business. And this morning we spoke and she says she's stressed out. Often when she gets stressed, she gets migraine. Like she has this chronic stress because of work. Can it be attributed to this mental kind of state issue?
Okay, Kweku, please keep listening. That's Kweku from Accra. He wants to know that is his friend experiencing something that borders on mental health?
Yes. Again, it's about mental wellness. Stress is one of the things that stress, or ways in which stress exhibits itself, and we'll talk about it in the courses next week and to detail about it. It's one of the ways it exhibits itself is physical manifestations like headaches, or pains, and so on and so forth. So obviously, once she has admitted that she's stressed out, now she needs to go to the next step of looking at how can I stop this.
Right. So we'll put Akosia's number out at Crossbridge, and then you can get in touch with her after the show so that you can get some help quickly for your friend. I've got Yvonne on social media. Yvonne says, very interesting submissions by Mrs. Mark-Okai. She lectured me in Empretech in the 90s. Awesome woman. This is from Yvonne. Thank you so much. I've got a few more minutes to take. Okay, I've got another comment. This is Araba from Tema. Araba says, I joined the program late, but this is the service I've been looking for about 6 years. Please put out your contact again. I think we should do that now. How do people get in touch with Crossbridge? Okay, let's hold on to that. I've got another caller on the line. Good afternoon. You're welcome to Masterclass. Your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Nee, calling from Asylum Down.
Nee, how's Asylum Down this afternoon?
Asylum Down, we are not happy at all, especially since the MPP have their headquarters here.
Nee, talk to me.
Okay, so I want to find out how many people are going to be mentally unwell because of this debt restructuring. Because if you have gone by the books, have been able to do everything to the letter by the books, and then now you are having mental problems because you are hearing that you are not going to get any part of your money. How many people are going to be unwell mentally, and how are we going to be able to get out of this? Because it's challenging, and some don't know what to do.
All right. I think, Nee, thank you so much for your comment. And I think that it's a very fair point that you make. The fact that we're talking about it in the first place is a start. And I think that a lot of people are going to be affected, yes, as you say. What I'll say is that let's keep talking about it. Let's get help. Let's reach out. And for people like Akosua here, who are professionals in the field, and all the other professionals, they're always available to help people to go through some of these things. I mean, even for retirement, when people are going on retirement, we get help for people to talk through these things. So clearly the professionals are ready and they're available to help us to go through this. But yes, we're all going through this together. Nee, thank you so much for calling the show, and thank you for your comments. I have a few minutes to take one or two more calls. Numbers to call 0302216541. That's 0302216541. Or send us your comments on 05511119997. I've got a quick question for you. You were talking about orientation and the way people see things and all of that. And we talked about thresholds. Just in 30 seconds, if you can, just talk about it again for me. Thresholds and ability to cope.
Okay. Yeah. So it comes back to your mental.
And what does an employer do? I've got 200 staff. Each one has thresholds. And each one has a different ability to cope. What do I do as an employer?
All right. So, again, we'll go into that a little bit more, what we can do at the workplace to, once that employee feels that my organization cares about me, it helps, because the organization might not even be able to pay salaries. But you know it's genuine. It's not like the MD is coming up and going off to lunch in places when workers have not been paid. So the worker must have a safe place to work. And it entails a lot of things, even your job design, the hours of work, overtime, all those things come into play. And we'll look at that a little bit into detail. But the threshold is that each of us determines our threshold. And that determination comes about your mental states and how you see things. So that, for example, how do you look at problems? If you can accept, and maybe this will help me, that problems are normal in life. Devastating things can happen to you in life. But what have you put into place so that you can cope?
What is your coping mechanism?
Exactly. And it is when people run out of coping mechanisms that they become overwhelmed. And then they become so stressed out, you're going into the disorder spectrum.
Right. I've got Frimpong Richard in OEB. He says, good afternoon, gentleman and lady. Please, how can workplaces effectively support mental health? I suppose that's what you just explained, by showing a duty of care.
Yes.
By showing a duty of care.
But we will do that in detail in the subsequent weeks.
Right. I've got just about 2 minutes to go. Let's sort of round up. I think you got one more slide. Let's sort of round up the content on that and then tell our listeners what to expect in the conversation next week. But at the end of that, put out your contact for me as well for Crossbridge.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I'd like to say that you were made to solve life's problems. You have the capacity to be able to do that. Because every single one of us in this country, we are either just about to go into a problem, we are coming out of a problem, or we are in a problem. So why get agitated? You know, so that's normal.
If it's not death distraction today, to be something.
Exactly. So it's normal. Once you're able to accept that it's normal, and then you design, and in the last week, we will look at how we can design our coping capabilities or strategies. Otherwise, it will really mess us up. So let's remember that the package that we have given to the world is what we want the world to see. But what is determining that package is where the conflict is. In the way we think, the way we behave, our attitudes, our beliefs, our values, our interpersonal relationships, and all that sort of thing. Make us as an individual in a workplace. And so you need the individual to cope, and you need a workplace that will give support. And that's why workplaces must pay attention to this and find out ways in which, when an employee is going through this, you can say, go here, do this for help. And so next week, we will look at what are the causes of the low mental wellness in the workplace. How does it impact my work? And then what are the implications for performance? That will tie in. Today we just looked at what it is, why, and what is not.
General introduction.
A general introduction into a mental wellness. But I would like to end by saying that in the meantime, don't despair. The sun will rise again. If you fall down 7 times, as the Bible says, you will rise again. But you must learn how to go about this. And so if you want to get some help, we have a center in Kitase in the Grapam Hills, natural environment, lovely lush trees and everything to calm you down. And my phone number, you can call me on 0244 219, again 219 716. So it's 0244 219 716. Or you can go to our website, Crossbridge Consult is one word.org, to find out a little bit more about us.
Right.
But there's help. There's help. And reach out, learn to ask for help. Some of us don't know how to ask for help because of our packaging and our reputation.
So shout. Akosua Agyeman Mark-Okai, CEO of Crossbridge Consult there, talking to us about mental health in the workplace. Great conversation. Next week, God willing, we continue in that same conversation, looking into a bit more detail of how it affects us, the causes, and all of that. This has been Masterclass here on your superstation, Joy 99.7. We come your way again with another exciting edition next week. Thank you for listening.